I've titled this video, Being Played, Don't Be Fooled. It seems that there's some very strong evidence coming out, some videos you've probably seen. And oddly, these videos have stayed up on TikTok, but yet videos pointing out that this may be a false flag have been taken down. Odd indeed. In the videos being put forward, they talk about an NSA audit that proved that the wrong person is sitting in the White House. The thing is, many of us, myself included, believe that there was something wrong with this election, that somehow Trump is illegitimate. We saw millions and millions of Democratic voters purged from the voting rolls right before the election. There was bomb threats. There was all sorts of shenanigans going on. Did that mean that the wrong person is sitting in the White House? We don't know. And that is what we have always said. All we want is an investigation. They investigated 2020. Let's have an investigation of 2024. Matter of fact, there should not be an election that is run that is not investigated afterwards to make sure the legitimate winner is being given the spot of winning. This is voter integrity. However, some only use the term voter integrity or election integrity when their guy doesn't win. And quite frankly, I don't want to be one of those people. Now, I bring this all to your attention that this NSA audit report may be a false flag geared to get us humiliated and stop all the talk about election fraud for the 2024 and take our eyes off of the Trump-Epstein connection, all by humiliating us by having gone down the wrong rabbit hole. I want to remind you of something you might have forgotten. Back in 2004, George W. Bush was in the White House, and a lot of us were very unhappy with his presidency. Looking back, most of us would gladly trade Trump for Bush because at least the man has some integrity. But there was a rumor, and it looked like strong evidence, that when George Bush Jr., George W. Bush, was in the National Guard, he had gone AWOL because a drug test was called for, and he would not have been able to pass it. As far as we know, we don't know it now and probably never will know. Why? Because if you remember, Dan Rather was given documents that looked concrete proof that George Bush had gone AWOL. And this was presented, and it was aired on the 60 Minutes. And people were going, we got him, that's it. Problem was, this was a fake document. The information in it looked legitimate, and probably was, but it had been printed out on a computer, not an electric typewriter, as which would have been not used in 1974. What's the point here? Somebody typed it up new in 2004, causing the whole story to look fraudulent, making it embarrassing for anybody to bring it up even further. Anyone who did would be hit with the argument, we already looked into this, it's been proven false. Let it go. My friends, I believe this is what's happening now. In the report going on, I give you links, you can research it yourself. In this document, it says, in December of 2024, this is a CIA agent who's written a book. I won't be able to pronounce the name of the book. You can see my notes. Anyway, he writes, I was personally involved in an NSA in an NSA authorized forensic audit of the 2024 election. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz won by a large margin. Trump lost drastically. There's the thing. If it's true, yes, it'd be great. But how are we going to be able to reverse that and stop it if it was true? But here's the thing. He goes on to say there are multi layers of complexity in this cover-up, including a transnational organized crime syndicate that expanded far beyond the United States or our election. To that point, I worked with the human trafficking sector, which intersected with the stolen elections and has ties to Trump and Epstein, not President Biden, Vice President Harris, or Governor Walz, but to Democrats and other allied interests responsible for bearing this audit. His name is Adam Zarnowski. If I mispronounce it, I apologize. Ex-CIA agent and author of the book I can't say that, I'm sorry. No way I'll be able to pronounce that. And someone writing a book, dude, pick a title that people will remember and be able to pronounce. Anyway, here's the thing. Focusing on the Trump-Epstein. That's one thing they want us to stop. Another thing, stolen election. Another thing, the argument that Harris and Walz actually won. If, as I suspect this is false, that's the goal. In the article, I'm giving you the link for it. It says, Adams' testimony points one of the clearest and most disturbing pictures yet of how the cover-up was orchestrated and why it remains buried. His book expounds on this testimony, which needs to be looked at. He goes on to say he explained that none of these this is a very important point in the article. It says he explained that none of his revelations are classified. He has full authorization to speak and is prepared to testify under oath. Mark that right there. They are not classified. Ask yourself. Now look, Donald Trump is not a smart man. We all know that. He's not the brightest bulb in the box. But he has enough still going on up here to say, hey, there's evidence that I'm in the Epstein files. I better not release the Epstein files, right? Okay. Do you really think, having once being placed into the presidency, that somebody would not have come and said, hey, the NSA has done an audit of the 2024 election, and they prove you did not win, and we stole the election? Do you think Trump might have quickly said, classify it? Of course he would have. The man would have to have been totally brain dead not to. That's why one of the red flags that pops up in my head as to why this probably is a false flag. I'll also give you a link here of a fact-checking site, which I got to say, I was a little skeptical because I've never seen this fact-checking site before. But you can read what they write in there. You have that link, you click on it, they'll give you all the information. And it seems to also disprove or debunk, whichever term you wish, this whole notion. All I'm saying, friends, is this may be a trap. Don't go down the wrong rabbit hole. Let's push for investigations. Let's demand investigations. Nobody should be purged from the voting rolls. I don't care if they're Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or whatever many different small parties there are. No United States citizen should have his right to vote denied. If my candidate cannot perform a good enough campaign, if they are not a good enough candidate, maybe they don't deserve to win. You will not convince me that Donald Trump was a better candidate than Kamala Harris. But did she have enough time to run and beat him? Don't know. Were there some people within the Democratic Party that did not like her and were rooting against her? I do not know. This is why we need a full, independent, nonpartisan investigation of those who are not interested in pulling Donald Trump out of the White House and putting Kamala Harris in, not interested in switching the power structure, but also don't necessarily care if Donald Trump was pulled out and somebody else was put in there. All they're interested in is the truth. That's what we need. And I find it highly suspect that TikTok pulled the video talking just about this. This is why this video I placed on YouTube. I'll make a shorter one pointing people to this video so everybody can talk about it. I know it's a longer video, so I don't know. I hope people will watch it because I'm concerned that we are about to get played. And I don't want to see that happen. If Donald Trump is not legitimate, I want it exposed. If, as reports have come out, there were all these millions of Democratic voters purged from the voting rolls, we want to find out who is behind it, and they need to be prosecuted. We need to make our democracy safe and secure for all. Let's do what's right, and let's stop the BS. I hope this video will help, because we don't need to be in the wrong rabbit hole, finding that there was a snake waiting for us in that rabbit hole, and the other rabbit hole was safe. Thank you, friends. Have a good night.